Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chonley, alongside Nick Zararis. And Nick, they shut down Washington. They lost kind of a wild one against Florida, but then they turned around less than 24 hours later and dominated Tampa Bay. Most importantly, though, Nick, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, Andrew, all the listeners. If you're watching live right now, thanks for hanging out with us in the midst of what I'm sure is a very good day to rot on the couch. I know prior to getting at my desk to record this, I've done nothing but watch hockey, basketball, and hockey all day, and now football. So it's a really good sports day. Watched a little bit of the PWHL opener. That was good to see. We are getting into that fun part of the sports calendar now where we got the NFL playoffs. We've got hockey and basketball really starting to hit their sweet spots. This is where it starts to get fun as a sports fan, and it ultimately culminates in the best stretch of the year where you get the start of baseball, you get the NFL draft, and you get the basketball and baseball playoffs. You get the Masters in there. You get the return of motorsports where we really get into that sweet spot of the sports calendar. But for right now, I mean, as a Ranger fan, you're just sitting here going, can we get to the playoffs already? Because you're worried. Every single night you go out there, you're going, oh, God, don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. Because all the Rangers have to do is play, 500 hockey the rest of the way, and they'll be the 2 seed in the division. They don't need to even play good the rest of the way to be one of the 3 divisional teams because of how bad the Metro has been. And that is the concern you have as a fan, because we saw this happen to the team last year, where once they got out of that rut in December where they lost, 6-7 in a row going into that game against the Blues, they come back, they win that game. Then they got on a nice little streak and kind of righted the ship, turned the season around. By mid-January, they were pretty sure they were making the playoffs, and it was a matter of, okay, who are we trading for? Okay, let's get to the playoffs now. So it's really going to be interesting to see if this group can maintain the level of focus they've played with so far this season. Because something I went and looked up that I was curious about, and this is something we were talking about before in regards to the Knicks, in regards to stats that kind of change year over year, ebb and flow, just because of the variousness of the sport. Last year in 1-goal games, the Rangers were 15, 9, and 13. This year, through 35 games, they're 11-1-1 in 1-goal games. So that goes to show you that even though that does ebb and flow year over year, typically speaking, that's going to swing dramatically one year after the other. They're not going to play 11-1-1 in 1-goal games the rest of the way. Math just doesn't work that way. But there is a level of attention here to detail, to playing as close to a full game as you can, of not killing yourself with stupid mistakes. And there's just a deeper level of engagement from this team as opposed to years past. And it's easy to chalk that up to just the coach. But as you and I have talked about a lot this season, it was on these guys coming in this season to be the ones to say, hey, last year what happened, that wasn't really us. We kind of shit the bed. We needed to be better. We're going to take ownership. And I think that all starts with Panarin coming in and saying, I'm going to be one of the best players in the league again. Because he hasn't played this well in 3 years.
No, well, he has decided, hey, I'm Panarin. Oh, yeah, I have one of the most lethal shots on the planet. I should use that every now and again. And and now that he's doing it, he's scoring at will, essentially, and teams are terrified, absolutely terrified. But I think the one thing I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying is, I think because the core of this team has essentially stayed the same from last year to this year, I think that the thought process from them is at the very least, at least marginally different, because last season when they knew they were going to make playoffs, essentially they were just waiting. We're getting Patrick Kane. Oh, okay. Oh, we have to flip the switch when we get to the playoffs. Oh, whatever. They didn't play all that well leading up to the playoffs. There was still a lot of they didn't look like they have been a team, frankly, a lot of last season. This year has just looked like a different team. They look way more in sync together. They look way more focused on what's in front of them, as opposed to thinking about what's happening in 4 months, which I really like. And I don't know how much that has to do with Peter Laviolette or Michael Pekka or Dan Muse or whoever, and I don't know how much that has to do with the current leadership core of the team and the players and whatever, but as a collective, they definitely look like a team that isn't focused about February or the deadline or the playoffs. They look like a team that is saying to themselves, we don't care about what happens in 3 months. We care about today and who we play. And that has been a dramatic shift, not just mentally, but also how they play on the ice. And it's really great to see.
So I went and pulled Panarin stats. So this year so far, through 35 games, this is the highest rate of individual scoring chances, expected goals, high danger chances, and rebounds created of any season in his entire career. All of that in combination with unlocking other guys. That is something we have talked about ad nauseum since Panarin got here, whether it was when he was playing with Strome and Jesper Fast or Colin Blackwell or Dryden Hunt. Last year, playing Trocheck with Gaudreau. We have been talking about for basically since he got here that they haven't found a complementary piece that can fully get the best out of him. Because when you are as good as Panarin is, you can do a lot on your own. But to get to that next tier, to get into that upper echelon, which we're going to talk about later in the episode about how good he's playing in comparison to some of the other stars in this league, you need pieces that are going to complement his skill set. We've heard a lot that during his time here, he has insisted on the opposite winger being somebody who can go get the puck. He doesn't want to play with somebody else who's going to shoot, that he wanted to play with Gaudreau, with Blackwell, those types of Jesper Fast, those types of players who they're just there to forecheck, get loose pucks, and get the puck back to Panarin. This year, when you go under the hood and you look at Lafreniere's under the hood stats in combination with his ice time with Panarin, we're talking about a level of dynamicism that that might not be how you say that.
If it's not a word, it is now. We'll put it in.
A level of dynamic ability that Panarin has not played with in his time in New York. Lafreniere is creating so much volume by playing with Panarin. Now, not all of that is just, he's playing with a really good player. By default, Lafreniere is going to play better. We have seen more than one right wing struggle to keep up with Panarin. Lafreniere's ability has been there. It's simply been a matter of unlocking it and giving him the confidence to say, hey, you are this good. You can play with a guy like Panarin, and it's going to make the team better. You asked me the other day, is there a way to look up how much ice time Panarin played with Lafreniere this year versus the past? In the previous 3 years of Lafreniere's career, so his rookie year to last year, 260 minutes in those 3.5 seasons. 53% scoring chances, 42% goals, 49 expected, 52 high danger, 7% shooting. This season, 451 minutes, 58% scoring chances, only 48% goals for, not great. 55 expected goals, 56% high danger, 8% shooting. That tells you they have the puck a ton. They are in the offensive zone. They are putting the other team a lot of pressure on the other team. But on occasion, they do get burned going back the other way because they are so offensively heavy. But we are willing to concede that trade-off of, hey, maybe they're not the best defensively because they're generating so much offense. That is a consolation you are willing to make when you are getting this level of play from Panarin.
And I tweet on our podcast account, every especially the past few days, like, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere is the best line in the NHL. In this essay, we will that's how well they've been playing. And I looked at the reason I texted you that question is because I wanted to see how much they played together last year versus how much they're playing this season. And this is via Natural Stat Trick. I tweeted this out a couple of days ago, but last season, Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere played 157 minutes together the entire season. Through 35 games this season, that trio has played over 313 minutes. It's not so much that, look at the amount of ice time. They have this much ice time, but they look so good, man. They look in control of the play. Obviously, there's, like you mentioned, sometimes they get burned and all these things, but offensively, they are the de facto first line a lot of the time. Yes. Because, Kreider, Zibanejad, and Wheeler at 5-on-5 for whatever reason, for stretches of the game, disappear, don't really do a whole lot, and then the second line comes on. dominates the entire shift is in the offensive zone, leading to good scoring opportunities or what have you, and they get off the ice. Something that the first line isn't doing as much of, and that's something that maybe will change once they get not Wheeler in there. Maybe that'll, I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But that second line has been pushing the envelope for the Rangers offensively for the last few weeks now, and it has really been so fun, just fun to watch. Forget it, the results are great, obviously. They're fun. That line, whenever they have the puck, and that's a good amount of time. That's a lot of time. They're creating chances, they're creating chaos for the other team. They don't know what to do. And that is one of the best feelings when you have a line like that, is put them out there whenever, and the other team just has not a clue what to do. It's fun.
We talked a lot coming into the season about it falling upon the guys who have been here, because the guys they added in the offseason, you mentioned Wheeler, they brought in Pitlick, Bonino, Jonathan Quick. Other than Quick, pretty much, replacement level or worse inserted into the lineup. A lot of this improvement from last year to this year is on the guys who have been here a while. Guys like Panarin, guys like Trocheck in his second year, Kreider's Zibanejad, guys like Fox, Lindgren. Trouba and Miller have been a lot better this year than they were last year, even though, they're still definitely... I still don't like the way the skill sets of the D pairs complement each other. I know this has been a talking point on Rangers Twitter for the better part of 3 seasons, that they need to experiment with Fox, Miller, and Trouba, Lindgren, just because the skill sets don't match up the way they have them currently deployed. It was nice to see Key have one of those flash games that he's liable to have a couple of a season. The other night, the 2-goal game, really nice, aggressive moves, taking the puck to the net mouth, because we all know that's there. We see these glimmers of really high-level plays from this guy, from K'Andre, who's still relatively young. I know he's been in the league a couple seasons now, so we're starting to get to the point where, hey, he's a veteran. When is he going to make the leap? When is he going to make the leap? And he's a good NHL defenseman. We all are waiting for that next step because we think he has the ability to be a great NHL defenseman because of the traits, the size, the skating, the reach, all of those things in conjunction with each other.
Also is key. Like he has the confidence to make big plays more often than I feel like he does.
I think that's also a trickle-down effect of playing with Trouba, who is the epitome of a high-leverage player, where pretty much everything Trouba does is high-risk, high-reward, and it's working a lot more for him this year than it has in the past in New York. I mean, he has gotten marginally better each year since he's gotten to New York. Yeah, if you go under the hood and look at the team stats of anybody on that 2019-2020 team, other than Panarin, you would think they were the worst hockey team ever assembled because they were the most outchanced team in the entire league. And that was a team with decent talent. Like, I know they were 24th and they were one of the last teams to sneak into the fake playoffs that year, but there was a lot of talent on that team to be as bad as it was defensively. And he's gotten incrementally better. The first half of last season, he was atrocious, hit the All-Star break, really turned it around solid.
Well, it's because he kept playing injured because,
yes.
The Rangers had a coach that continued to play him when he literally couldn't skate, but that's...
Yeah, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
You digress. Yeah. But back to the point at hand about Miller. The reason I think a lot of people get frustrated with players like him, players like Lafreniere, is you see those flashes, you see those glimmers and say, how come he can't be that all of the time? And part of that, as you said, is confidence. Does this player feel empowered to, on a 50-50 puck, go balls deep for it, get their stick out there, go skate as hard as they can, and put pressure on the other guy? And like we just said in regards to Trouba, you make a play like that, you risk getting burned. Is Miller, is Lafreniere, is player X empowered enough to feel like they can make that decision? And this year, because the vibes around the team are so much better, I would argue that is a real trickle-down effect of these younger players feeling more empowered, feeling more emboldened. I mean, when you go and look under the hood at some of the stats that Hedl was putting up before he got hurt, what Lafreniere is doing, what Kaka was doing before he got hurt, you saw them all having really strong starts to their season. And part of that is they were in an environment that was encouraging opportunistic play, that was encouraging taking risks, that was not trying to just get to overtime like last year. The Rangers had 107 points in the standings. Those were 13 loser points. And you go back and look at the box scores. There's overtime losses to Columbus, Anaheim, Nashville, teams that just aren't good. That last year's Rangers team, if they had that little extra attention to detail, they put away handily. But for whatever reason, this year, it's clicking for them in a way it hasn't in a while. I mean, you tweeted it the other day that this is the Rangers tweeted it and you quote tweeted it. This is the first time since 93-94 the Rangers enter the calendar new year in first place in the whole league. We're talking about something special here. You don't have the record they do right now at 25-9-1 through 35 games without something special going on here. And I said that in, I want to say like the first week of November, that they have the potential to do something really special based on how they came out of the gate. Without key guys like Hedl and Kakko for more than a month now, they are still finding ways to win. And they still have a move to make.
Yeah.
That is all a recipe for a very special season.
Not only that, they're missing 2 key forwards. Their defense has been okay, but it hasn't been the top 1 in the NHL. And yet, despite all of that, not only are they the best team in the league, standings-wise, like, they're dominating a lot of these games.
Yes.
I understand Washington might not be as good as their record. They dominated them. Florida's a really good team, and yeah, they lost that game, but the second and the third period, they looked much. That first period was kind of not great, but the last 40 minutes they looked pretty good. Tampa Bay, another team that had been pretty hot coming into that game. The Rangers decimated them. I mean, like, that wasn't even close. They are coming into games against really good teams. They beat Boston twice. This is a team that has the rest of the league on notice. Like, this is not just them beating up on bad teams and playing good teams to overtime or whatever and just kind of hoping, holding on and hoping for a bounce here and there. They are coming into games against really good teams in this league and are putting their foot down, which is something that they absolutely unequivocally did not do last year at all. For the most part, they haven't done. They tended to do this a lot in seasons past, where they would get to bad teams and play down to the level, or they would play against really good teams and just hold on for dear life, hoping to get to overtime, and then we'll go from there. This season's team has so much talent, and despite missing 2 really key forwards, are still finding ways to dominate other really good teams. That's not something that, first of all, the clip from The Office were like, hey, this is the good times. Like, enjoy this. Because, again, dominating really good teams in a fashion like the Rangers currently are, when they're missing Kakko, they're missing Filipino, Blake Wheeler's playing first-line minutes still for some reason. Like, they're still looking really good, and they're still collecting a lot of wins off of that. And, I don't want to jinx anything now. It's January 1st, but they look really good, and they look really, really scary.
Of their 25 wins this season, 14 are by 2 or more goals. They're getting that empty net goal. They are putting these games away. And one more thing we can add to this point about how, the potential for a strong season is, they still haven't really gotten Shesterkin going all the way yet. He's been slowly, incrementally making his way up the goal saved above the expected leaderboard. He just passed Quick after this week. He's 13th. Quick is 14th. I want to say he's sitting at like a 905, 910 save. Now he's sitting at a 911 save. So you can conservatively estimate that'll jump up another 5 to 10% somewhere in there if he plays within his career averages, which, again, that is another feather in the cap they have in trying to put together this formula. We've talked a lot over the last couple seasons about, okay, special teams, goaltending. So far, it's been pretty much only special teams, a little bit more 5-on-5, and the goaltending being a little bit maybe deeper than elite. Like, I know that might sound weird to say about a team that has 2 goalies in the top 15 of goals saved above expected. But when you think about it, Shesterkin has been perennial top 5 in goals saved above expected since he got over here. I don't know what Larry Brooks was talking about when he wrote that article 3 weeks ago after Shesterkin had a bad 2 weeks. He's been one of the 5 best goalies in the world since he got over here. And he still hasn't really gotten going yet. And it took him a little while last year, too. Let's not forget, it took him till about mid-December to really hit his stride. The team in front of him was significantly worse at 5-on-5 than the group that we are seeing right now. And the point I'll say to that, I know a few weeks ago I said the 5-on-5 play wasn't that different in terms of the numbers, but when you watch, the play is cleaner. And I know that sounds very simplistic and reductive, but when a player has the puck, they know where it needs to go for the most part. If player X is in position Y, the puck needs to go here, and they know that. It is a lot less frantic. It is a lot less east-west in their own zone, in the neutral zone, because that's where they've historically gotten into trouble in the defensive zone and the neutral zone, is when they force that one extra pass to the middle as opposed to just skating or passing forward. That is when other teams have been able to pounce on them. So the fact that the play is cleaner, that you can tell they actually are practicing and have a general idea of what they need to be doing when they're playing, all of that, and they still haven't really played an A-plus streak of games here. Like I said, the Florida game, Florida's one of the 5-10 best teams in the entire league. The Rangers played like a B- C+ game, and that was a coin flip game, more or less. They did not play well in that first period, and they were good enough overall in the game to make it a 1-goal game in the end. That's a game that you feel good about going forward, that, hey, we'll get our lick back against Florida. I'm not that particularly worried about it. And I was talking about it the other day with one of my friends about who I'm actually worried about, and maybe Vegas, maybe Dallas. I think Florida, I'm skeptical of Bobrovsky doing it 2 years in a row in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that works in the Rangers' favor. So, generally, whenever we go into the playoffs forever, it has been, how far can the goalie drag them? How far can the goalie drag them? Right now, you are getting slightly above league average goaltending from both your goalies. You have one of the best power plays in the entire league. You have a top 10 penalty kill. Your 5-on-5 play will get better once you add another winger to this group, because they have a move to make. And as we get closer to the deadline and we get a better idea what teams are going to give up soon, then we can start talking about more specifics. But everything is lining up for them. The league is pretty wide open this year. Nobody is as scary as some of the teams of years past. Tampa has finally kind of regressed to being mortal. Toronto is missing 3 of their 6 defensemen and just put Samsonov on waivers because they don't have a goalie. I'm not as scared of Toronto as I would have been in years past. I'm not scared of Boston as I would have been in years past. The Rangers played Boston really well both times they played them. The only teams that really scare me, you wouldn't see until the Cup final.
Yeah.
So if that's what we're talking about, it's a matter of, let's stay healthy. Let's not lose sight of what our goal is here. And let's find a way to get Shesterkin going. And then you line all of that up, and then we're talking about something really, really special, the potential for something really, really special.
I agree. I'm looking at the standings right now, and most of the team names that I kind of have a red flag next to are kind of in the Western Conference. I'm still nervous about Boston. Yes, I understand the Rangers have played them well the past couple of games that they've played. I also think Boston is very mad at how last season went. And I think come the playoffs are going to have that big chip on their shoulder, and they're going to look to right the ship there. So I think, on top of them just playing well this season anyway, that's going to be big on their minds coming into the playoffs. And I think they're going to be a scary team no matter what. Florida, like you said, Bobrovsky, they're a good team through and through. And with Bobrovsky, you just kind of never know if is he going to be that Bobrovsky that carry them to the final, or is it going to be the other Bobrovsky that can't really stop much of anything, and the Panthers kind of lose because of him. But with that, you don't know. Most of the teams that we're afraid of are in the Western Conference. Colorado is still playing really well. Dallas is playing really well. Vancouver, I understand the Rangers beat the Canucks in that one game that they played. Vancouver kind of dominated for a long stretches of that game. Their speed gave the Rangers a lot of problems, and that would be an interesting matchup to watch if both teams get there. It would a rematch of '94 would be hella entertaining. That's for sure. But even teams like LA, who don't give up goals at all, Cam Talbot, out of nowhere, has looked like the Cam Talbot that he was with New York. that one season that Lundqvist had that injury. I mean, he's been absolutely incredible. And even a team like Winnipeg, I wasn't expecting to do much of anything this season. And then they brought all their guys back. And, oh, by the way, now Connor Hellebuyck is incredible again. And they're one of the best teams in the league. So, but like I said, most of these teams that I'm looking at of like, oh, like this could be a problem are in the West. And if the Rangers make it to the final, they'll only see one of these teams at best. So yeah. From the East perspective, Boston still scares me. I'm sure maybe Florida if Bobrovsky's looking good. It just a lot of this depends on what happens at the deadline right now. But as currently projected, as it currently looks, yeah, I mean Boston and Florida maybe, but Rangers just look like the scariest team right now.
So they are on pace for 120 standings points if they were to maintain their current points percentage for the rest of the season. They are averaging 3.43 goals per game. They are averaging 2.69 goals against per game. For context, last year's team, 107 standings points, 3.33 goals per game. So 1/10 of a goal more per game. That doesn't sound like a lot, but over the course of an 82-game season, that is a lot. Ditto with goals against. They are conceding slightly more goals against this year than they did last year. I would probably attribute that to the goaltending not being as good as it was last year overall. I imagine it will continue to improve as they get Shesterkin more regular reps, as the schedule kind of picks up. This is something we've hit on a lot this season, that the schedule is very disjointed the first half of the season. And then once we get past February, it really starts to pick up, where for the most part, you're playing 4 games in 7 days, pretty much the entirety of March and April. And then once you're in the playoffs, you're playing every other day, and God willing, till the 3rd week of June. And then we can worry about the bruises and the injuries after that. But everything is lining up for them to have a really good shot at it this year. And going into this season, the question was, is this core good enough? And the core being Zibanejad, Kreider, Shesterkin, Fox, Trouba, Miller, Panarin, Trocheck. Is that group good enough in comparison to some of the teams we've seen have success? And we've talked a lot about, well, was Trocheck enough? Was Trocheck enough as a 2C to go all the way? Is Zibanejad good enough as a 1C to go all the way? Because that's really been the question. It wasn't a matter of, do they have the defensemen? Because talent-wise, they have one of the best 1 through 6s in the entire league on the back end. And goaltending, that hasn't been a question pretty much ever in this current iteration of the core. So that leaves it on your best players. Are Zibanejad and Panarin going to be able to line up across from Eichel and Mark Stone, or Jason Robertson and Rupe Hintz, or Matthew Tkachuk and Sasha Barkov? Are you going to feel okay about looking those guys in the eyes in a best of 7 and saying, our best players can at least play your best players to a tie, and then our depth guys are good enough that we're going to be able to make it happen? Because their depth guys have been making things happen, man. I cannot say enough about how good Will Cooley's been for them this year. Yep. Out of the box. Like, I thought there would be an adjustment period. I thought there was a good chance he was going to start the season on the 4th line and spend most of his season, playing 11, 12 minutes, low event, not do anything too fancy, get stapled to either Gaudreau or Bonino's left, and just be, a solid rookie, but not expect a lot. But he's going to have probably something in the neighborhood of 15, 20 goals by the time the season's over. And conservatively, coming into the season, I said if he gave them 10 goals, that would be a massive success. To get 15 to 20 from somebody with no NHL experience at league minimum as a 2nd-round pick, that's the epitome of what you need if you want to be successful. We've long talked about how the Rangers don't have any excess value, where they have all this money tied up in these good players. Don't get me wrong, talented players, but they don't produce at the value. Produce at a level commensurate with their value. So it's hard for the Rangers to improve their team. You drop a 15-goal guy in here for $800K, suddenly your roster looks it's a lot easier to imagine your roster making something special happen.
I want to highlight this because this is the same thing Tampa Bay did when they won their cups. They had all this money in Hedman and Stamkos and Vasilevsky and these guys, but they also had secondary players on rookie scale deals or really cheap deals that played better than what their contract suggested. And because of that, they were able to essentially out-talent everybody else and go out and win Stanley Cups. this is the winning formula. You find diamonds in the rough that can play like a Will Cooley is right now to fill out your roster because you have so much of your cap tied up to elite players. Okay, that's, having the elite players is great. You can't have 18 elite players. That's just not how the NHL salary cap works. You can't have 18 Panarins and Foxes and Shesterkins down your lineup and then just go out and waltz to a Stanley Cup. Like, that doesn't happen.
And the Rangers tried that. That doesn't work.
Right.
The Rangers tried doing the all-star team thing pre-salary cap, and that did not work.
Bobby Holik is not walking through those doors. Like, that's those days are over. So the solution to the problem is, and Tampa Bay has figured this out, you find guys on rookie scale deals or on cheap deals that have something to prove or whatnot along those lines to fill out your roster, and then they go out and then they deliver more than what you could have expected them to, given their current either experience level or a cap situation or whatever. And that is one of the things that really pushes a team to the top. It's great having Panarin. Panarin cannot play 60 minutes of ice time. He is not on the ice for every shift of the game. That's not how hockey works. You need other players out there that can either hold down the fort or maybe even provide a little bit offensively while he's on the bench. And guys like Will Cooley is exactly how you do it. He's been phenomenal.
Okay, Andrew, it's time to play Guess Who.
Okay. All right.
This player started their career as a Ranger.
Yeah.
They went to Nashville, Philadelphia, Vancouver, Anaheim, St. Louis, back to Anaheim, to Columbus, to Ottawa.
Oh, my God.
This is a very easy one. This is a very easy one.
Oh, this is Brassard, right?
No.
No. Oh, no. Brassard never went to Anaheim.
He just retired this past summer.
This is Del Zotto.
Correct. There we go. See, two questions and you got it. There you go. Okay. Yeah.
Del Zotto, I forgot Del Zotto was a St. Louis Blue for like literally 6 minutes.
He was a trade deadline acquisition. He did not play in the playoffs. His name is not on the Stanley Cup, but he did get to take a picture with it, and he did get a ring. So
I mean, I would have the ring proudly in my display, no matter what. Are you kidding me? No, listen. I would love to have the name on the cup, sure, but given the circumstance, a ring is a great consolidation prize.
Andrew, haven't you seen the NHL's commercial? Your name lasts forever. The ring, once you die, your kids are going to pawn that shit.
I don't know, but I don't know if they'll pawn it. I mean, that thing is like, it is really expensive though. Like, if you really needed the money, you can, right? And recoup recoup some assets that like you would need on a rainy day for whatever reason. But like, if you don't necessarily like need this money, I don't see any reason why you would sell it off.
That's fair. Okay. I have two more things of this vein for you. Number one, this has been a discussion in the football world the last few weeks because CeeDee Lamb is having a tremendous season for the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb wears number 88, same number Michael Irvin wore all those years in the 90s, one of the best wide receivers of his era, one of the best wide receivers of all time. And it begs a very simple question. Would you rather your number retired, or would you rather be remembered as being so good that the best player at your position always gets that number? Because those are two very different schools of thought, and they're different depending on the sport. You can't really retire numbers at the college football level because there are too many people on the team and you need every single number you can possibly have. Schools don't really do that. That becomes a traditional thing where the best defensive back at LSU gets to wear number 7, or the quarterback at whatever school gets to wear whatever number. In the case of the Cowboys have given that number 88 to their best wide receiver. Des Bryant wore it for a number of years. CeeDee Lamb is wearing it right now. And Michael Irvin's logic was very sound. He said, if they retire your number, you get the ceremony, you get the banner, people go to the game, and they don't think about it. Then when you die, everybody goes to the game that week. They take pictures of the banner. Oh, man, remember Mike. And then you fade away into forever. But every single week, people watch the Dallas Cowboys, and they see CeeDee Lamb out there wearing number 88. If he drops a ball, they would say, Michael Irvin wouldn't have dropped that shit. He was better than that. Or if CeeDee Lamb makes a big play, they say, CeeDee Lamb, he just like Mike Irvin.
I would like to counter that by saying I was never good enough at sports to even consider that question. So whenever, like I'm on this is the nerdiest thing of all time. I'm on a Counter-Strike team.
So retire your mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, but my thought process when I'm playing on a team is all I want to do is win. Like I don't personally care about, personal accolades or, like if I'm talking about
Andrew
Counter-Strike,
is trying to get the Barkley Goodrow contract
all
more
I
than
anything
do, in the world.
Yeah, listen, all I want to do is win. So I mean, I haven't given this any thought at all, but I can see the school of thought from both sides. I mean, I like the idea of a retirement just because it's like your number is up there. And nobody could no one's wearing 30 for the Rangers ever again. Like no one's wearing 9, no one's wearing 2. Every time you look up, even though I don't know, I don't even know if Adam Fox would even want to wear number 2, but let's say he did. Every time, it's tough because you also want to be your own player. I feel like having your own number means that you don't have the Hall of Famer as your shadow kind of following you around everywhere. Because if Adam Fox had Leach's number, for example, can you imagine the discourse every time he made any kind of mistake? I know he doesn't make a lot of them, but like every time he made a mistake, the discourse would be tremendous. It would be, oh, he doesn't deserve Brian Leach's number. He doesn't deserve blah, 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 blah. It would be nauseating. So I get it. I get the idea of the number living on as your legacy. I think I enjoy the idea of not having the legacy shadow current players a little bit more.
Okay. I understand both sides of this argument. I don't think there's a right answer, but I did think it was an interesting topic and something worth broaching. Okay. The last thing we're going to talk about today, we spent a lot of time talking about how good Panarin's been this season. So we are going to play Would You Rather with Panarin with other players in the NHL. It is purely for this season. It is not about the future. It is not about the cap. So player number 1, okay. Would you rather have David Pastrnak or Artemi Panarin?
Right now, probably
right
Panarin.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, Panarin.
Would you rather have Matthew Tkachuk or Artemi Panarin?
Oh yeah, Panarin.
Would you rather have Jason Robertson or Artemi Panarin?
The way Panarin is playing right now, probably Panarin.
Would you rather have Mikko Rantanen or Artemi Panarin?
Ooh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. I don't know. I don't know. That's a really tough question. Which one would you pick though?
Based on how they play, because they have vastly different styles,
right?
And Panarin is playing at such a high level with Lafreniere and Trocheck that Rantanen plays the opposite side. So you would have to figure, are you going to play him with Trocheck and then move Lafreniere back to the left? Are you going to play him with Zibanejad and Kreider? Where are you going to deploy him? Number 2, he's not as dynamic of a playmaker, but he's more well-rounded. He's elite defensively. So I think we could make an argument that Rantanen is a better player, but Panarin fits this team better.
Sure.
So I know that's kind of a cop-out and not necessarily taking a side. I think I would probably say I would take Panarin because he fits the way the Rangers want him to play, the way the Rangers are playing. But Rantanen is a better player. I think that's my answer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mitch Marner or Artemi Panarin?
Dude, the Leafs fans are screaming for Marner to get benched. So you know what? I'll take number 10.
Okay. Nikita Kucherov or Artemi Panarin?
Panarin. Especially this season, because Panarin has been playing a lot better defensively. Nikita Kucherov doesn't care about defense whatsoever.
That's fair. JT Miller or Artemi Panarin?
I mean, this is...
That's not a trick question. JT Miller's been a point per game player for 2 straight years.
JT Miller's a great player. I'm not saying anything bad about JT Miller. He's especially offensively, like he's for Vancouver, he's exactly what they need. He's been carrying that. I mean, he's one of the pillars of their offense, and they are one of the best teams in the league because of and big part of JT Miller's production. Give me Panarin.
Brady Tkachuk or Artemi Panarin?
I mean, can Ottawa win some games first? Give me Panarin.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. And then we can start getting into the ludicrous here, where we'll start talking about centers. And this is where you really start where Panarin really kind of has an uphill battle, because like you're going to take McDavid, you're going to take Draisaitl,
sure.
You're going to take
also
McKinnon.
It's tough to compare positions.
It is
because Panarin, like obviously with McDavid, that's sure, but also McDavid can win faceoffs. Panarin, I don't think he could win faceoffs that well.
That's fair. I mean, that positional value, you know, centers are always going to be prioritized over winger. They have more responsibilities and they can do more. And frankly, you know, McDavid, faster skater. Okay. Jack Hughes or Panarin?
Oh boy. It's a tough, like, just side by side, it's so difficult. I think these are even exponentially hard questions because these are two different positions. Like, if you ask me Zibanejad or Hughes, I would say Hughes all day, every day. Despite how really good Zibanejad is as a two-way player, his 5-on-5 play is continues to drive me up a wall. And like for that reason, I'll take Hughes all day, every day. But you didn't ask me about Zibanejad. You asked me about Panarin, which again, like it's not as crazy of a question as like, would you rather have McDavid or Adam Fox, for example? But like positionally, because the style dictates a different method of playing the sport, it's tough to answer that truly. Because okay, well now if you let's say it's a 1-for-1 trade. Like let's say in this fake fantasy world you trade Panarin for Jack Hughes. Okay, well now Zibanejad's playing second line center, I would think. With who? Because now Trocheck's moving to the third line center, or is he going to play the wing? Like that messes up that messes up the lineup. So like it's tough to switch out a winger for a center in these examples.
Okay. This is something I thought about while we were discussing this, and it's of the same vein. And I jokingly threw together a very bad Photoshop of Adam Henrique in a Rangers jersey on my phone the other day.
Uh-huh.
So these are all players that are potentially available that I wrote down while you were talking.
Okay.
Rank these 5 players in order of preference. Frank Vetrano, Adam Henrique, Jordan Eberle, Anthony Duclair, Kevin Hayes.
Jordan Eberle, number 1, by far, I think. Okay. Kevin Hayes has not been playing well in St. Louis. I know I think he's gotten better as of late, but to my understanding, I haven't watched a ton of Blues games, but I have Blues fans, friends, and I haven't been too positive on him. I don't really think, like, I don't know what he can offer right now to this roster. Maybe as a fourth line center, maybe, but like third lines, like if you're trading for a center, it either has to be for the third line or you're trading for depth at that point. So I don't really know what he can offer. Probably Henrique at 2. Duclair at 3, although Duclair's defensive issues are concerning, to say the least. I don't know if Laviolette can fix that, but his defensive holes have been a problem throughout his career, so I don't know how fixable they are. I guess Vetrano at 4. The problem is that his contract is ridiculous, so I don't know how the Rangers would even go about trading for him. Like, okay, even if you do a 3-team trade, okay, that's fine, but you're still stuck with him for years. Because he's not a free agent at the end of the year. He's got a chunker of a contract.
3.65, yeah, for one more year after this.
Yeah, like he's not going anywhere, and you need every penny you can save heading into this offseason. So I don't know why, in what world they would go and acquire him. Like, I guess if you could move Barclay Goodrow's contract out fully to bring in Frank Vetrano, that would make more sense. But why would Anaheim make that trade? That trade doesn't make any sense. But again, okay, let's say you really want Frank Vetrano back, even with that contract, and Anaheim doesn't want Barclay Goodrow because why would they? Okay, well now you got to ship Barclay Goodrow to somewhere else, attach a pick or a player or something of value with Goodrow to essentially just ship him off into the ether. Okay, well now you bring back Vetrano. His like that in a 1-for-1, Vetrano is. I would much rather Frank Vetrano than Barclay Goodrow, sure, but the Rangers. I don't know if they like. That's not something that they probably do. So then, what does that leave me with? That leaves me with Kevin Hayes, right? So he's at 5. right?
Your order, you said Eberle 1, Henrique 2, Duclair 3, Vetrano 4, Hayes 5.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah,
I would agree. Eberle and Henrique intrigue me the most because they are skill sets that the Rangers need.
Yeah.
You saw Eberle all those years riding shotgun with Barzal where he's just letting it fly. And that's really what Zibanejad and Kreider need as a compliment.
Also, I don't care about 2012. I'm sorry. I don't care about Adam Henrique's goal in 2012. I don't.
They already got Quick on the team at this point.
I don't care. Like, yeah, you know, I'm sure the broadcast is going to bring it up 7,000 times a game during the playoffs if that happens. I don't care. Because again, my philosophy, and you agree with this philosophy, is I don't care what you did 10 years ago. I don't care. What can you do for me now? Can you provide positive value to my favorite hockey team now? Adam Henrique can, therefore, I don't care. If that's the best move for the Rangers and they can find a way to make this work without giving up, you know, a king's ransom, I'm down. Do it. Sure.
I'm going to do more due diligence on who it could potentially be available, but I feel pretty safe in saying Anaheim is ready to be looted for parts because it feels like they're done. Duclair, the Sharks, they know they're not in it. The Blues, probably not in it. And Eberle, it looks like Seattle's not particularly good, and he is a valuable piece. So I definitely think in order of priority, getting a complementary piece for Zibanejad and Kreider is the most important thing they need, absolutely 100%. And then a depth forward. They need one more guy for that bottom six so they can force Pitlick or Brodzinski out and give them that extra guy as a 13th. One of those two guys is the 13th forward because you're going to have somebody get dinged up at some point in the playoffs and you don't want to have to go down to the AHL, you know, for like Nathan Gerbe to come back up for a game.
Nathan Gerbe?
No, different short. Who's the other short guy?
Gerbe has not been in the, I don't think.
No,
I'm
thinking of who's the really short dude they signed who was on the Blue Jackets for a while. Who they call, hang on. He played one
Riley
game.
Nash?
There we go. That's what I was thinking of. Riley Nash. Yeah.
Nathan Gerbe.
I was thinking really short guy who's on the Blue Jackets.
Is, that's, I mean, that you pull the name out of a hat. I'll give you credit for that. You definitely you're pulling out the Carolina Hurricanes legends, but I don't think he's been playing for a little bit now.
All right, let me.
What about I mean, if the Flames keep losing, Elias Lindholm.
I would love Lindholm, but I don't think the Rangers would do that because A, they're gonna have to do third team stuff and give up more assets, and two, they just haven't typically done that. Sign the trade for the expiring contract guy, knowing they're not going to keep him. Like generally speaking, when the Rangers have acquired a guy at that age, they have only traded for them if they can give them the extension. And I feel like Lindholm is only going to get traded to a team that's going to be willing to give him that extension because Calgary can get more in a trade if they do that.
My counter to that is they make this trade if Heedle's not going to play.
That's fair. That's another conversation we can have at some point about the tier they're going to shop in based on what they hear about Hedl.
Because Heedle's went back. Heedle's at home.
Yeah, Heedle's back in Europe.
He's not even remotely close to the team. He's back in Europe with again, first and foremost, I hope he gets healthy. Forget about hockey for a second. Like as a human being, brain injuries are really scary. He's 24, I think, and he's had multiple concussions at this point. Really scary. Hopefully he just gets healthy again just for his sake. But, again, and you think about from the Rangers' perspective, if you come to an understanding that Filip Chytil either is done for the season or worst case scenario, he's Michael Sauer and that's it for his career as well. Okay, well, you were expecting him to be either the 2C or the 3C, and now you have that hole because Heedle's not playing. And that, like, if they trade for that kind of player, that should tell you a lot about Heedle's future.
I agree with you in that respect, and we will touch on more on that going forward as we get a better idea. I mean, there are a lot of people doing the trade bait stuff already. I mean, I don't know what LeBron was smoking last week when he suggested Jake Gensel as a fit for the Rangers, because Pittsburgh would I'm trying to think of what like an appropriate metaphor would be. Like someone would wipe their ass with the Mario Lemieux banner before they would trade Jake Gensel to the Rangers. Like that's like one of the epitomes of like hockey is stupid. Nobody's intelligent. No, even if the Rangers had the best offer, I couldn't see a world where they would trade Gensel to the Rangers. I just couldn't see it.
I mean, It's one of those situations where I understand from the thought process of, okay, well, Gretzky was traded, so anything is possible. But I just like, okay, well, the Penguins would have to lose 15 in a row for them to do that. And they've been playing really well as of late, especially against it. I mean, they destroyed the Islanders last week. They beat them again last night. They're playing really well. It would take a catastrophic collapse at this point to get them to even consider that option. And would the Rangers have the best offer? Like, I don't even know if the answer is yes to that. Probably not. I'm sure there's other teams that have stockpiled more assets that could try to finagle Gensel, and also probably not the Rangers. Like, the Penguins would have a lot of suitors for Gensel, and offers from not the Rangers by default would be more enticing. So the Rangers would have to pack on more assets to equal other teams' offers because of the Rangers, and I don't think they have what Pittsburgh wants. So I don't think it's going to happen.
I would agree with you in that respect. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Liberty Blue. If you're going to go watch the football games, enjoy the rest of your night. We'll be back next week. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. We're live every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. We'll talk to you guys then.
Later.